starter on the O-line. Bryce takes it, falls to the ground, and Appalachian State has done it again. They come to College Station, and they take down the number 6 team in the country.
What a dominant performance by the Mountaineers. So much heart, so much passion.
The anatomy of an upset. For starters, App State had the ball for 41 and a half minutes. Texas A&M, 18 and a half minutes.
All right, folks, welcome to the Sports Talk with Chris Heidel. Yeah, it's a big upset down there in College Station. It cost Texas A&M an opportunity to have College Game Day after Appalachian State and some guy named Chase Bryce, who was the quarterback at Clemson a couple of years ago that beat Texas A&M down there. So the 2 losses against the top 5 team that Texas A&M has played for, Adam, is the same quarterback that beat them twice. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's like Kid Brewer Stadium's going to be rocking on Saturday when ESPN College Game Day goes up to beautiful Boone, North Carolina. They've deserved it, Chris. They knocked off Michigan, and now here they are again, knocking off another top 10 opponent. I don't think they've stopped partying up there.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Before we start, I'm Chris Heidel. That's Adam Rise. George Bashir is on assignment tonight, but he'll be back next week. Tonight at 7:05, we got Tim Newton, the voice of the Purdue Boilermakers. They're going to roll into upstate New York to try to take on Syracuse, who's right now rolling. They're 2-0, and they're playing very well in the Dome. And then at 7:12, Noah Reed, who is a play-by-play guy for the Big 12, he'll be behind the mic this Saturday for Towson University's trip to Morgantown to take on the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Then Ian Berger, who is a part of a Dolphins talk, or he is the Dolphins fan of the year back in 2020, Mr. Positivity. He'll be joining us to talk Dolphins football because the Dolphins are bringing their boats and everything up to the city of Baltimore this weekend to take on the Baltimore Ravens. So, because the Ravens last week beat Joe Flacco in the Jets, up there in the Meadowlands. So it's going to be a very jam-packed show tonight here on the program. We'll be previewing the games that we're going to spotlight. Also, we're going to spotlight Oklahoma taking on Nebraska because that's an old-fashioned rivalry. Back in the days of the Big 8, like this time, let's play a little clip here real quick. We'll bring in Tim. Hopefully this is the right one. That's the wrong one. Let me get the. That's no sound for that one. That's like 1985 was the last time they played. Let's see here. Well, anyway, we'll bring that in shortly because back in 1971 they called it a game of the century, Adam, and some guy named Chris Schenkel was behind the mic for that one.
Yeah, we all know Chris Schenkel was the voice of the PBA Tour, but he also did college football for ABC Sports as well. So a lot of people don't know that about Chris.
Yeah, in the fall he did college football, and then during the summer he did the Olympics or anything the ABC wanted him to do. And then when it came wintertime in January, he was on 16 weeks of the Professional Boulder Tour. So, going coast to coast, Anyway, let's bring in the voice of the Purdue Boilermakers, Tim Newton, joining us. Hi, Tim. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's a good segue. Chris Schenkel was a Boilermaker. He went to Purdue.
Yes, he was. Sure was.
Bippus, Indiana.
Yeah, I grew up watching him him and Adam and I grew up watching him on ABC's Professional Boulder Tour. And when I interview people, I try to be like Chris Schenkel a little bit because I like the way he held the microphone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it looked like he was more professional because you see a lot of some of these broadcasters, Tim. They're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And it's like, really? You got to look a little more professional with that. So Tim, you're heading up to upstate New York this weekend, taking on a very good Syracuse squad. You're going to be broadcasting that game for the Purdue Boilermakers. They just coming off a blowout of Indiana State. So what do you see in your Boilermakers been trying to knock off a surprise team in the Orangemen?
Well, it's the first time away from home for Purdue. They've played the first 2 games at Ross-Ade Stadium, so it'll be their first road game of the season, and their first game at a dome since 2017.
Wow.
Jeff Brom's first game as a Boilermaker head coach was against Notre Dame in Lucas Oil Stadium back in 2017. Ironically, Jeff Brom is going to be against Dino Babers. It's the 100th game of Jeff Brom's coaching career. His first game he coached against Dino Babers when Dino was at Bowling Green and Jeff was at Western Kentucky. So Jeff is hoping for the same outcome because he won the first time around.
That's cool. That's pretty interesting. It seems like it comes full circle with all these coaches. Like you played, you coach your first game, and then 20 years later you coach in your 100th game, and you're like, hey, I remember my first game against you. Yeah,
it's amazing and it's amazing the details those guys remember too. Because somebody asked him about that game the other day, and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember it really well. Their quarterback got hurt, and blah blah blah." And it turned out to be a pretty one-sided game.
Wow. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah. Now, Tim, since you're the voice of Purdue, there was a really big fan of Purdue football that, unfortunately has passed on. I believe his name was Tyler Trent. You want to talk about Tyler's impact on the Purdue University football program?
Absolutely. Could never tire talking about Tyler Trent. We met Tyler back in 2017. He was a Purdue student. He was a freshman. And he had just the year before been diagnosed with cancer. And so he was going to get treatment. And the reason we all found out about him originally was he was standing all alone with his friend at Ross-Ade Stadium the night before Purdue's homecoming football game against Michigan. They were first in line to get into the stadium on Saturday. And it was, that was a horribly hot day. It was 95 degrees. And one of our local reporters happened to see him. He was driving back from his high school football game, and he saw these 2 kids, and he got the story that Tyler had chemotherapy that day and had driven straight from his chemotherapy appointment to stand in line at Ross-Ade Stadium. And we got to know him a little bit over the years. Unbelievable inspiration to a lot of Purdue fans. You remember the 2018 game against Ohio State when he was down in the field. And I've gotten to know his parents, Tony and Kelly, pretty well. I've done a couple of events with them, and they're great people. And the thing, the legacy will live on because his he basically gave his tumor to the Purdue Center for Cancer Research so they could do further testing on it. And it was a great pain to him. It was not an easy thing for them to remove part of that. So they have a fund now that's an endowment at the Center for Cancer Research in his name. And his legacy will last forever at Purdue. And in fact, the gate where he came in, there's a sign now, and it's the Tyler Trent gate at Ross-Ade Stadium.
Wow, that's cool. That's awesome. And that's a lot of toughness for that kid get that chemotherapy and the day of the game and just sitting there in line. Because I don't know about chemo, but I think some of that stuff takes out on people.
Oh yeah, and Tyler had a very hard form of bone cancer. It was, he was not a very big kid to begin with. And the toughness that he showed both mentally and physically was something that we'll never forget.
That's cool. Well, let's talk about this weekend. You got somebody who normally is supposed to be on the sidelines with you, but you got somebody going to be not making the trip. So talk about who's replacing your sideline reporter, because he's an assistant coach at a high school.
So our sideline reporter is a guy named Kelly Kitchell, who actually was an offensive lineman when Drew Brees played at Purdue, and in fact they've started a restaurant together here in Lafayette. But he's coaching a game Friday night, and it's kind of hard to get from Rensselaer, Indiana, at 10 o'clock on Friday night to Syracuse, New York at noon on Saturday. So replacing him will be Mark Herman. Mark was in school the same time I was at Purdue back in the late 70s. Mark is a college football Hall of Famer. When he left, he was the all-time passing leader in the NCAA. And he went on to have a long career of more than a decade in the NFL. So he'll be on the sidelines for 3 games this year. And my broadcast partner, my regular partner, Pete Quinn, was his center. Oh, so wow. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of byplay between those 2 guys on Saturday.
Hey, it must be an exciting dinner for you on Friday night. Listen to all the old stories when you guys get to Syracuse. You'd be
we get a lot of old stories because we're getting to be old men. So the stories get better, if not as true as they once were.
Hey, and they get better with age.
Absolutely.
Like my father, he got a sign from Shea Stadium that says, "Don't bring bottles of cans." I'm like, "Dad, how'd you get that?" And he goes, "Oh, I had a bottle cap and I took it off the fence." I'm like, "Okay." And then every year it gets better. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's like that. It's like wine. Like, now it's wire cutters in the backseat of a Cougar. I'm like, okay. He was like, what else? The next year, I'm waiting for let's put out the song.
Next year he'll put drones back into the few decades ago, and they got it by a drone, right?
Exactly. I was like, okay, Dad, I'll take that any day. But it's funny. These two schools don't play each other. This is the second time. The last time Syracuse made a trip to your neck of the woods, it was shut out and they got pummeled 51-0. So this is a different Syracuse squad. It's not the one you saw years ago.
Absolutely. That was a one-sided game. That was a pretty good Purdue team in 2004. Kyle Orton was the starting quarterback, and Purdue went on to win its first 5 games and go to a number 5 ranking before they got some injuries and wound up not having the kind of season they wanted. But yeah, this is a good Syracuse team. Garrett Schrader's off to a fantastic start right now, and in fact, you're showing Kyle Orton, by the way, was on campus last week. He was inducted in the Indiana Football Hall of Fame. So he was here Friday and Saturday. And then the Chicago Bears had an alumni gathering on Sunday. So he went up and sat in the pouring rain and watched the Bears and the 49ers play on Sunday. But he's living outside Des Moines, Iowa now and having a great time with his 2 kids.
Yeah, there was a lot of rain there in Chicago.
Monsoon. Yeah.
So Tim, what is the 3 keys that the Boilermakers need to do to get to 3-0? No, not 3-0, 2-1, because I know they lost to Penn State on that last-minute drive that Clifford did at the beginning of the year. But what did he do to get a big road win?
Well, I think they've got to get a little bit of a running game. Syracuse is going to come out in that 3-3-5, so it's going to be a little harder to throw maybe than it usually is. Charlie Jones right now is the nation's leading receiver, 10.5 receptions a game, but they're going to have to find another weapon offensively. So getting a little bit of balance. On defense, they're going to have to stop Sean Tucker, who is one of the nation's best running backs, and Garrett Schrader and Sean Tucker make a pretty good combination there. So you're going to have to take one thing away from Syracuse. And then if it comes down to special teams, both these teams have great kickers. Schmidt for Syracuse, Mitchell Finneran for the Boilermakers, and it could come down to a last-second kick. And as long as it's in Purdue's favor, I'm all for that.
That's cool. Adam, you got one more question for him?
Yeah. Tim, we talked about Chris Schenkel, a graduate from Purdue. And you mentioned Kyle Orton, another famous Purdue quarterback who retired from the NFL is Drew Brees. Do you have a favorite Drew Brees story from when he was quarterback in West Lafayette?
Yeah, actually, Drew Brees came here as a freshman, and he was virtually unrecruited because he had broken his leg. He had had a severe leg injury as a junior in high school, and a lot of schools, including Texas and TexasA&M, which are the 2 places he was really interested in, backed off. So in the end, it came down to Kentucky and Purdue, and Kentucky had Tim Couch. So he decided to come to Purdue. Didn't play much his freshman year. That was Joe Tiller's first year. And even though they thought he had pretty good potential, they went out and got a junior college quarterback between his freshman and sophomore year just as insurance. But we played his first start was in 1998. It was in the LA Coliseum against USC, the hottest day I've ever been through in a sporting event. It had to be close to 100 degrees. And even though Purdue lost, he put on a show that day. And I remember Joe Tiller walking out saying, well, we lost the game, but we found our quarterback for the next 3 years. And the rest is history. So, yeah, I've known Drew since he was a sophomore at Purdue. And in fact, he was here last week as well a couple of weeks ago for the Penn State game. So, he makes a few trips to West Lafayette.
Cool. Well, Tim, I hope you have a safe trip to upstate New York. I hope to see you hopefully this weekend because I have a pass, but I'm still waiting for them to send me the parking stuff. But hopefully we get there. And if not, I'll catch up with you down the road. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Bye. All right. That's Tim Newton, the voice of the Purdue Boilermakers, joining us this evening. So let's bring in Noah Reed, who is also going to be busy this weekend in Morgantown when Towson University 2-0 going to take on a Mountaineer squad is stumbling after losing to a tough Kansas squad last week. Adam. So let's bring in Noah. So hi Noah, how you doing?
Hey, doing great, Chris and Adam. Pleasure to be with you. Thanks so much for having me. And look forward to talking a little bit of Towson and West Virginia football, and can't wait to be in Morgantown on Saturday.
Well, I'm thinking about making a trip out there. I'm only 3.5 hours away, so I feel like that's probably closer than us. It's a little farther than State College, but it's a Saturday, so it's college football day. So it seems like it's all fun. But these two schools played each other back in 2014, and I don't think Towson got anything on the scoreboard. I think it was like, I think I just saw it like 54-0. But I feel like this is a different type of Towson squad because they're 2-0. They played a really good Bucknell squad in overtime, and then they took care of a Morgan State squad. But they haven't played somebody tough like this in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You're right. The first time that they played back a few years ago was not a close game. West Virginia beats them by 50 plus, but it's different right now. And I think Towson, the 2-0 start, and you bring up a good point that they haven't necessarily played somebody the caliber of West Virginia, an FBS program, a Power 5 program. But at the same time, Towson's got a lot of newcomers, a lot of graduate transfers, a lot of transfers in general who have played Power 5 football and not just been on the roster, but actually played in games for Power 5 teams. So I think that's kind of helps them a little bit. The defense for Towson has been great the first 2 weeks of the season. Gave up just 13 in that overtime win over Bucknell. Gave up just 21 against Morgan State and that rivalry win. So there's a lot going right now for Towson. And on the other side with West Virginia, you got to imagine, right, that they're really hungry to come in and play well and finally get that first win of the season after losing a couple games the first 2 weeks. I don't think they anticipated. I don't think many people anticipated West Virginia being 0-2 at this point. So there's kind of a lot of things going on with this one where, if Towson doesn't show up early, I think West Virginia has the ability to make it, a tough day for Towson. But at the same time, if Towson shows up, defense plays the way that it has been the last couple of weeks, I think they can make things interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good, interesting game. The way if Towson plays like Towson football, I've seen Towson for a long time down here, and if they get the running game established, they might have it up a little bit better because I haven't seen the quarterback yet. I know Coach Ambrose is a very good friend of ours of the program, and I still tell him I still have eligibility left. So if he needs me to come down and help him out. But, I told him I just need number 16 because Joe Montana's number 16. That's all I need, But, but Adam's laughing in the corner there. But, I just feel like Towson has a chance to knock off any school. It's just what Towson school shows up.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for me, they've got 4 running backs listed on the depth chart. And we talked with Coach Ambrose earlier today, him and Coach Daniels, the defensive coordinator. And Coach Ambrose told us, the reason we put 4 guys on the depth chart for this week was because we think we're going to play 3 or 4 of them. We're not just going to have one guy going in there and run the football, but we're not afraid to run 3 or 4 guys and to have a lot of guys touch the football. And so they have the guys to run the ball. They feel really good. Devin Matthews, who's been the number 1 guy the last couple of weeks, they kind of were thinking of him being the 3rd stringer coming into the season. And he's a guy who's getting a lot of touches, had a 100-yard game a couple weeks ago, really productive for them, but they don't have just him. There's a few other guys. And for me, the big thing with running the football, it kind of comes down to how well is Towson's line going to get a push, because there's only 1 returning guy starter on that offensive line and 4 newcomers. And you got a West Virginia defensive line that's big, that has some talent, that gets some pressure on quarterbacks, that can get into the backfield. Is that Towson offensive line ready for the challenge? Are they going to be ready to play? Can they get some push? Can they create, can they get 3, 4, 5 yards down the field and get a little bit of push on that West Virginia defensive line? If they can, then Towson has a good opportunity to run the football well, and they've got a chance to stay in this game and make it interesting. If they can't establish that run, I think things get really tough for them.
That's true. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah. This game will be broadcast through the Big 12 now on ESPN Plus, and I think your analyst name is named Adam as well. So, will this be your first time going down to Morgantown to see a West Virginia University football game?
It will be. This will be my first time seeing West Virginia. I was at Kansas week 1. That was my first Big 12 Now game that I did for ESPN. And so I was in Lawrence week 1 a couple weeks ago when they played Tennessee Tech. So this is just my second Big 12 Now game, my second game with ESPN. And so it's my first time in the state of West Virginia, my first time in Morgantown, my first time seeing West Virginia football. And I'm really excited for it. When I found out last week that this was going to be my assignment, I was really excited because you kind of see the atmosphere of what West Virginia football games are like. And I realize that they're 0-2 right now and probably not where they envisioned themselves being. But at the same time, West Virginia game days are still something that's going to be exciting. It doesn't matter if a couple games into the season they're 0-2. Still going to be fun. The fans are going to be there. I know they're still going to be excited to see their team play. And they're going to want to get win number 1 of the season. And I think it's an opportunity with an FCS opponent for them to find themselves a little bit in getting into Big 12 play, which is going to be tough this year. This is an important one for them, and probably a lot more important than your traditional FBS versus FCS game goes. If West Virginia was 2-0 or even 1-1, I may not be saying that, but because they're 0-2, because they haven't won yet, because they're still trying to get that first win, I think it's a little bit more important to them than it may have been otherwise. But yeah, it's my first time heading down to Morgantown, being in the state in general, and I'm really excited to see what that game day atmosphere is like.
Well, it's pretty crowded. I've been there a couple times, and don't be worried about country roads and John Denver, all that stuff. And when you walk in the press box, they actually have a big picture of John Denver right in the center of the press box.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so if you get there early, and I'll try to get there early, I'll show you. It's pretty cool looking, but I don't mind John Denver. My parents used to play his records. It's cool. I'm a big Neil Diamond guy. So it's not a big deal.
Hey, I love that song, "Take Me Home." That when I found out I got the assignment last week, that was one of the first thing that popped in my head. West Virginia, Mountain Mama.
And the funny thing is, he wrote that song. He didn't go to West Virginia. He wrote it in Denver, Colorado. And I'm like, maybe he did cross. We don't know. Yeah. Well, Noah, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know it was a short, quick, chance for you to come on, but I appreciate it. And we'll see you Saturday.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me on here, guys. Have a good show, and looking forward to seeing you on Saturday if you're there.
Yeah, I'll see you Saturday, and I'll stop by.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Man. Thanks, bud.
See ya.
Enjoy, Noah.
All right. And that was Noah Reed, who the play-by-play guy who will be doing Towson versus West Virginia. You can watch that game 1:00 on Big 12 now on ESPN. But it's on ESPN Plus if you want to watch it.
Yes.
So, let's switch gears. We go to the NFL. The NFL this week kicked off with some great games, Adam. Did you get a chance to see some of the
I did. And we're going to have on a guest that's probably pretty happy because the Miami Dolphins are 1-0 after defeating once again.
Let's bring him on. Let's bring him in. So let's bring in the Big E Burger, who Mr. NFL Man of the Year in 2020, Mr. Personality. How did you get that award? How did you get that?
Well, first, Chris and Adam, thanks for having me on tonight. I appreciate you guys inviting me this evening. But it's actually the National Football League runs a contest now, Fan of the Year. And to make it really quick, you have to be nominated by one person, multiple people, and then the team actually selects who their representative is going to be. And I was extremely honored to be the Dolphins representative. And out of the National Football League, the 32 representatives for the 32 teams, I was in the top 3. And I was blessed with an opportunity to go to that Super Bowl. I went to see Tom Brady in Tampa Bay playing against the Chiefs, and a bunch of other perks associated with it. But there's a lot of positivity that I bring to the Miami Dolphins fan base, a lot of community and connectivity and bringing people together that has also helped me to be able to get that and kind of get the name Mr. Positivity as people. They've called me the Godfather of Dolphins. I get all these different names, but it's a great way to connect. My favorite thing is going to games and seeing folks that I've only chatted with online through social media. Actually this weekend had 2 separate people who flew in from the UK down to Miami to watch the game, and they're like, "Ian, Big E, we just wanted to say hello. We just flew in recently," and that is, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right when I'm able to bring people together and meet these folks.
Nice, cool. Well, this is the first meeting for the Dolphins since last year with the Ravens and Dolphins. Ravens went down to South Florida on a very hot and steamy Thursday night game. We had Hollins on, Mark Hollins, who is actually from Maryland. He lived here in Ellicott City. Now he's off to the Vegas Raiders. Just talk about that game last year. The defense basically controlled Lamar Jackson at the line of scrimmage. It ruined my fantasy league. I just want to let you know that for the week.
What was interesting is that if you remember where the Dolphins were at that point, there were no expectations for the Dolphins. They thought, a lot of people thought the Dolphins were going to be cremated because Tua had been out a couple of games. So we had Jacoby Brissett starting. And even though a lot of people felt that Tua was ready to play, Coach Flores still chose to put Jacoby in anyway. And the interesting thing being there at the stadium, it was probably about 50% Ravens fans and 50% Dolphins fans. So there was a huge contingency that Thursday night of Ravens fans. And even with that, as soon as Tua came in, you just felt that something was going to be different, and like he was going to bring that spark, because he wanted to not just show the coach that he could play, but he also wanted to show everybody else. And he did all the things right. But like you said, the defense, top 5 defense, I think, in the last 10 to 12 games of the season last year. It was pretty impressive. And I mean, for me, I'm still trying to get over the 2019 home opener that we had against the Ravens, where it was 53-7 or some crazy number. And I sat there from start to finish at the stadium watching that one. So, I was happy. I was happy to see it last season, and I'm obviously hoping the Dolphins have a similar experience up in Baltimore this weekend.
Yeah, Ian, are you just like me? Because I'm a big Met fan, and I try not to leave Met games early, because one time I actually did, and my grandmother actually yelled at me about it and cursed me in profanity. And so every time I go to a Met game, I try to stay until I hear my grandmother's voice going, "Okay, it's time for you to go home." Yeah, But I told my brother one time, we were there for a game. He had to work the next morning. I'm like, he goes, "You want to leave?" I'm like, "Not until Grandma tells me." I got chewed out the last time we went down.
I think some Miami Dolphins fans learned the hard way that you cannot leave early. Back, I think it was 2017. It was the Dolphins versus the Patriots, and with what was it, 17 seconds left in the game, Tannehill had that throw, and it's called the Miami Miracle. And the Dolphins ended up, with that last play of laterals, got it into the end zone, and it was Kenyon Drake, as a matter of fact, who is now part of the Baltimore Ravens.
I know, I saw that.
That is a memory that will go down in Dolphins history, because that was a fun time, even though it didn't mean much for the Dolphins. And I think the Patriots went off and won the Super Bowl that year, so it didn't mean much to them either. But still, it was fun at the moment.
The last time the Dolphins were in Baltimore, it was actually another Thursday night game. Was that the one that one of the linebackers took out Joe Flacco and knocked him out?
Kiko Alonso. Yeah.
Kiko,
and
everybody
it was like, check please, please, I think is what the meme was, right?
Yeah. So that was the last. It seems like every Thursday night they play a Thursday night game. Now it's like a Sunday 1:00 here in Baltimore. So it's like, okay, that's something different.
It is. I think we're saving our Sunday night game for the Pittsburgh Steelers in a couple of weeks. That is going to be a big game for us, because our old coach, who's had some challenges and has come out with some accusations and some things that turned out to be true, is now with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow. Yeah, I heard all about that stuff. It's kind of it's unfortunately that he had to do that. That's just not great to. He did fine last year. I feel like, seriously, he did fine, and I feel like he got the shaft because of being 0-7 at the start of the season. And I think the coach wanted the ownership wanted somebody different.
I think that the majority of Dolphins fans were shocked. I was definitely one of them that was shocked as soon as that news came over my phone in the middle of a meeting that I had at work, and I saw it pop up, and I thought to myself, we just went 2 seasons in a row with winning seasons, 9 and 8. It's the first time that's happened in 20 years for our franchise, but the more you heard, the more you understood that he wasn't really building people up behind the scenes, and he was really, I guess, treating people badly and giving people the cold shoulder. So, it worked out. And now we have the polar opposite right now. Mike McDaniel,
how old is he? He looks like he needs to be carded.
I think I think he's in his mid-30s right now, but I will tell you,
I'm 42 and I should be in the NFL, and I look younger. I look like a young 42. Come on now.
He is such a ball of energy and positivity that I've had a couple of opportunities to just rub elbows with him, and he just says all the right things that get you psyched, that get you hyper. And you could see it just by the confidence that he has in Tua, even after this past weekend's game where Tua ended up leaving a couple plays on the field. Coach McDaniel came out and said, we look to build off of each game, and hopefully by game 17, we're going to say week number 1, even though it was a win, was our worst game of the season. And I like that thought process, right? Continue to grow, continue to get better. But we love having him. I don't think there's any Dolphins fans that I've heard that have said, this guy's shtick is not is not good. I think everybody loves him right now.
Yeah. Adam, you have the last question for you.
I will say this to you guys. I actually work at a grocery store here in North Carolina, and I work with one of my managers. His name Iggy. He's from Miami, so he is a huge Dolphins fan. He's a huge Miami Hurricanes fan. So it's like he asked me if I watched the Patriots Dolphins game on Sunday. So I'm originally from New England, so I understand. Every time New England goes to Miami, what happens. But I know it was week 1, but your impressions of Tua and his new wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, who came over from Kansas City.
My first impression is that we have a lot of talent on the offensive side on the ball. We've had the same talent on the defensive side of the ball. What they did on defense wasn't a surprise. But getting the ball in Tyreek's hand, he made plays. Getting the ball into Raheem Mostert's hand, he made a 16-yard turn and play. Chase Edmonds, you get the ball into these playmakers' hands, and they're going to make plays. What I will say is that I think we, as a Dolphins fan base, we're looking for more from Tua. I think there were some opportunities where he could have thrown the ball further down the field, and he chose to go a little bit shorter. But with that being said, the Dolphins were 7 for 9 in third down conversions, so obviously he was doing something right. And we scored 20 points, even though 7 of those points did come from the defensive side of the ball. So it was overall, I think Tua will continue to improve. And we'll see what happens this weekend. I'm optimistic that we're going to keep things going this coming weekend.
Exactly. Well, Ian, thanks so much for coming on. Hope you enjoyed the game. You making a trip to Baltimore, or are you going to stay home?
Staying home, but I'll be back at the stadium for the Bills game the following weekend, which is going to be just as actually probably bigger than anything.
Yeah, because it's Josh Allen, Von Miller, Stephon Diggs.
Just a few. A few of them. Yeah.
Exactly. You can watch the Dolphins and Ravens Sunday afternoon on CBS. So that'll be fun. So, Ian, thanks so much. We'll keep in touch, okay?
Definitely. Fins up, guys. Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye. All right, that's the Big E. Yeah, that's a big game coming up. We'll talk to our good friend Dan Wilcox at 8:05. Let's play this real quick. This is a clip. Let's go back to the Wayback file to 1971.
Football 1971, the game for number 1. Unbeaten and untied Nebraska versus unbeaten and untied Oklahoma. This ABC sports exclusive is being brought to you by Brute, for men by Fabergé. After shave, after shower, after anything. Brute by Fabergé. By Texaco, the many thousands of Texaco retailers and distributors in all 50 states. Trust Texaco to have the right gasoline for your car. By General Motors and the people who make Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Buick, Cadillac, Opel, and GMC trucks. The cars and trucks with the GM mark of excellence. And by your independent insurance agent, who reminds you insurance is too important to entrust to an amateur. So see a pro. You'll find him where you find this big I symbol. Today, it's the showcase of college football as we look at the number 1 ranked team in the nation in the white jerseys, the Cornhuskers from Nebraska, being intercepted by the Sooners of Oklahoma in the crimson jerseys. They are ranked number 2. The game to decide who is number 1. The 2 top-ranked teams in the nation. A football classic that's been building for weeks, ever since Oklahoma defeated convincingly the University of Texas. For this game to decide the top team in the nation. Co-captains to the near side in the white jerseys, 14 quarterback Jerry Taggy, 18 Jim Anderson, both natives of Green Bay, Wisconsin. For Oklahoma on the far side, we have number 11 Jack Mildren, their quarterback, the injured Glenn King, and number 40.
All right, so there's a little flashback there to 1971, and Bob Newton is joining us. So, hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good, Chris. Thank you.
How's life treating you? We haven't had you on since May. How's everything?
Yeah, everything's pretty good. I'm still out here in Palm Desert, and it's about 90 degrees right now. We had a little rain yesterday, so that was good.
That's cool. Well, this weekend, I remember I talked to you in May. I said, we'll get you back on for Nebraska and Oklahoma. And I'm like, I looked at it last week going, first person I had to call was Bob. Because I know that as a true fact, because you're an old Nebraska Cornhusker. And I found a photograph from you back in 1970. It's on their website. Let me bring it up to you. I was wondering, have you seen this guy before?
Oh yeah, I look like I was ready to play that day.
Yeah, I saw it. They have Nebraska has their website. They actually have all the old rosters.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. When I was looking up, I was like, oh, let me get more. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty neat. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this weekend is a big game. I know Nebraska is limping in because they got a new coach in Mickey Joseph, who's the first African American coach at Nebraska. So what's your take on that whole Scott Frost situation?
Well, it's been a difficult week, that's for sure. And the fan base of Nebraska has been, hoping that Scott would get over the hump. And we've lost so many close games. They've been competitive, and just one way or another, they found a way to lose in the fourth quarter. In a lot of these games, and so we gave them a lot of leadway to get it turned around. But I think, the defense gave up over 600 yards, last week. I mean, you can't win. You can't beat Pop. You can't win a Pop Warner game. That kind of yardage.
Right.
So I think they needed to make a change.
Yeah. So just talk about, did you play in 1971's big game, or were you already off the stand?
No, in fact, I missed that. The day of that game, of the 71 game, I was sitting in my den in Chicago. I was a rookie with the Chicago Bears in 71.
Okay.
But the game against Oklahoma in 1970, when we played them in Lincoln, it went down to the last play too. We beat them 28-21, but they threw a pass in the end zone, and Jim Anderson, one of our DBs, intercepted. But it was real close that year too. And then my junior year, we beat them 45-12 in Norman, I think. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So just talk about this rivalry. This is one of those rivalries that used to play on Thanksgiving and, or the day after Thanksgiving. And I remember I was a kid, I was like, oh, there's a game on ABC or CBS on the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday. And now It's like, this game is not really, this is probably like the end of the contract, or they have two more down the road, like in the future.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long it's extended for, Chris, but when the Nebraska left the Big 8 and went into the Big 10, that was one of the losses, is I think that rivalry. And last year was a pretty close game in Norman, and Nebraska could have won that. But it was a great series, year in and year out on Thanksgiving Day, and it was a very we knew when we were playing the Sooners that week in practice. I mean, things just were elevated an upper notch in intensity to get ready, because it was very competitive each year usually.
Yeah. Are you making a trip to Lincoln this weekend? I was reading a notes. They're going to honor your 70 and 71 national championship teams. So that must be something cool for you to say hello to some old friends.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have a real good turnout with a lot of our teammates. And originally they were going to have the 1970 50-year reunion in 2020. Then the pandemic knocked that out, and then we were going to have the 70 and 71 in 2021. Then the pandemic knocked. So this year we're still having both teams together, and that's going to be a lot of fun because we know each other and we're all close. So I'm really happy to see some of these teammates that I haven't seen for a while.
Yeah, that's cool. Adam, go ahead, bud.
Yeah. Now I got to ask, did you get a chance to, when you were at Nebraska, did you get a chance to have your coaches be Tom Osborne and or legendary coach Bob Devaney?
Oh, yeah. Well, Bob Devaney was our head coach when I was there, and then Coach Osborne actually recruited me out of Southern California. So he was the first contact I had with Nebraska, and you know, I both those coaches just made a huge impression on me. And for me to go to Southern California to about 3 degrees temperature ice environment, you had to trust the guys you were talking to. But those two coaches had a huge impact on me, and they started recruiting California that year, and year after year they got a lot of Californians to come to Nebraska. So
That's cool. Nice.
Yeah, Coach Osborne was the best. Both those guys, both coaches.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll agree, Bob. Yeah. I mean, when you think of Nebraska football, you got to think of Tom Osborne, and before that, they named the Sports Center in Lincoln after Bob Devaney. So,
Yeah.
I think the Cornhusker faithful misses Tom Osborne right now. What do you think?
They do. And, Coach Devaney, Coach Devaney, when he was our head coach, and then Coach Osborne was our offensive coordinator, they were just, they were a great 1-2 punch. Very different men, but just outstanding coaches, and just you paid attention when they talked, and it was an honor to play there, and I'm really looking forward to going back there and saying hi this weekend. Great people, great fans in Nebraska. So
yeah. So do you have any memories of the Oklahoma team? 'Cause I know you played against them a lot when you were in college. Do you have any stories about it? Because I know, we know the only Oklahoma coach I know is what's his name, Barry Switzer, who was there for a long time until Jerry Jones gave him a phone call, like, you want to go to the NFL? Yeah. So what was like against? Was he coaching that time? No, he wasn't part of.
He was assistant. Actually, Barry Switzer recruited me also.
Oh, really?
I was at Cerritos Junior College in Southern California, and I'll never forget. I came out of practice one day, and one of the trainers said, "There's a coach that wants to meet you, Bob." And I said, "Okay." So he said he's standing over there. I walked over there, and I said, "Hi, I'm Bob Newton. I understand you wanted to meet me." He goes, "Yeah, my name's Barry Switzer, and I'm from the University of Oklahoma." I didn't know who he was, an assistant then.
Oh.
And so we thought, he goes, "I'm going to get you back there, and we'll bring you there for a weekend." But Nebraska and Coach Osborne just did a great job in the recruiting process, and I just didn't follow up with Mr. Switzer anymore. But one of the, when Coach Osborne was recruiting me, he told me, he goes, "Now, Bob, this was like December of 1969, around early November 1968, a year before I got there." He goes, "Now look, Bob, we're going to be playing the Oklahoma Sooners this week, so it's going to be on national TV. Be sure you watch it." So I couldn't wait. I got up Saturday morning. I go, "Well, this is a school that's recruiting me. I want to see, what they look like." So we get up. So by the end of the fourth quarter, it was 45 Oklahoma, Nebraska 0.
Oh boy.
And I said, "You know what? I might have a chance to play with Nebraska." And but it was a wipeout, and that it was in Norman. So when we went there the next year, which was my junior year, after I went ahead and transferred there, we beat them 45-12 the following year in Norman. So we got back at them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I hope this week, I hope Nebraska to do something, because I know Oklahoma has a great offense, and Ben Venables, the old Clemson defensive coordinator, I heard he's a spark plug on the sidelines. Yeah, I guess he runs back and forth, and he's a disciple of Dabo Swinney. But this is a tough task for him. Yeah,
Nebraska's looked pretty good on offense at times during this year, and I'm hoping they got a couple of running backs. They got a kid named Grant that's running very well, and another freshman. I can't think of his last name, but Grant runs with some authority, and if they get the running game going and keep that going, I think it opens up that offense a lot more, and they can be a lot more competitive.
Yeah, and that Grand guy actually transferred from Florida State.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, Chris. Sure did.
Yeah,
Mike Norvell should have kept him.
You bet. Yeah. He's tough. He looks real tough. A nice kid too, I hear.
Yeah.
You know, so
cool.
And he was a JC guy. He went to a junior college, and then I think it was military, New Mexico military, which is a 2-year school. So, and then he came with us.
Wow. So, well, Bob, thanks so much for coming on. I hope you have a safe trip to Lincoln. I hope the weather's nice for you and the flight is good. And enjoy the weekend with your ex-teammates. And hopefully you can bring that spark that Nebraska can bring a win home.
I'll go out there with my pom-poms.
Well, go get your helmet. Go get your helmet. Go. I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on.
See you later.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, that's Bob Newton, former Nebraska Cornhusker. We had to put him on because of this weekend's big game between Nebraska and Oklahoma. The Cubs are up 1-0 on the Mets because Harp just hit a solo homer off of DeGrom. So that's not good for me right now. Hopefully the Giants. Did you see my Twitter page this morning?
We play later.
Did you see my Twitter page? I go, thank you, Giants. Thank you for knocking off the Braves.
Yeah. It's called. Hey,
we got a whole.
We had the wild card.
Yeah. Hey, we got a whole month ahead of us. It's just going to be a battle until the end.
True, Chris. We sure do, my friend.
Yes, it's going to be that weekend of October 30th, 1st, and 2nd down in Atlanta. I think that's going to be for the division title or a wild card.
End of October, yep. And actually, I believe the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball season finale is the Mets and Braves from Truist Park. So here we go.
Here we go. Well, let me tell you what's coming up at 8 o'clock before we bring this gentleman in real quick. We have our good friend Teddy Island be joining us in a minute here. Coming up at 8:05 here on the program. If you just logged in, thanks for joining us here on a beautiful Tuesday night here in the Baltimore metro area. We'll have a former Baltimore Ranger joining us at 8:05. Our good friend Daniel Wilcox. Well, we'll dissect the Jet game. Plus, we'll get ready for that Dolphin game this weekend. And then our old buddy, our good friend Dave LaMont, who we got to talk about the U. Miami. They are 2-0, and they're going to roll into College Station and facing old menaces and Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, that's true, Chris.
Get this little stat he doesn't realize. I found this out. Did you know Jimbo is 7-0 against Miami? Yeah.
Maybe he can take out his frustrations on the Hurricane. What happened against College Station against App State.
And then 8:45, we have John Manson, who the Sea of Red, the Liberty Flames sports news. We'll talk Liberty football because they're rolling into Winston-Salem to take on the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, and some guy named Hartman's back on their center for the Demon Deacons. So that's going to be a very interesting game. So let's bring in our good friend Teddy Allen last night, who I thought this is funny. Adam, him and I were, I guess he got his schedules mixed up because I went on around this time last night working on getting the show ready. And I see this gentleman popped up. I go, is it Tuesday already? Did I sleep all day? But no, Teddy was making sure it was good. So, hey, Teddy, how you doing?
Good to see you again.
Yes, I know. It was pretty funny last night. I'm sitting there going, and I looked at my girlfriend. I'm like, is it Tuesday? Hey, it's okay. It's great. It was great that you checked it out.
I'm from South Carolina, and all that's not out of me yet. I'm still.
Hey, is that hard when you move from the East Coast to Louisiana when you're on the Central Time Zone and you're so used to living in the East and you're like, what time is it? Is it tough?
We moved when I was 14, so there weren't but 3 channels on the television set and that kind of a deal. I never made it to the late news. I didn't know that world was going on. I could only kind of get to the third quarter of Monday Night Football when it just started. I'm all adjusted now, but I'm looking forward to coming back home. That Death Valley is the first college game I ever went to.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah. So you got some friends and family. You're gonna stick around after the game's over and get some good South Carolina food, or you just
I'll get the charter back. We're 24-point underdogs, so nobody's asked me for any tickets yet. Shock.
They're like, hey, is Teddy coming?
Right.
Yeah, Teddy's coming. Let's talk about this game. Louisiana Tech, they're 0-3 against Clemson. They haven't played each other, I think, from one bowl game that it was back in 2000 something, and then I think Clemson beat them in 2016, 51-0 in Death Valley. So this is going to be a tough game for Louisiana Tech. So what do they got to do to knock off this Clemson squad that DJ the quarterback DJ whatever his name.
Right.
Yeah, I can't say his name sometimes. His last name is just yeah.
Ungalele, I think.
Hey, there we go. You got it.
Well, we have Tech's going to play Parker McNeil and Matthew Downing, so that gives you a little easier quarterback. Tech's going to have to block somebody. Tech went to Missouri the first week of the season. Thought it'd be like 25,000 people there. They had 50,000 people. And, boy, they tackled so well that game. Tech did not. So the Bulldogs just didn't block well. Then last week they played an FCS team, Stephen F. Austin. They're like number 10 in the FCS, but Tech blocked them really well, beat them 52-17, I believe. The bad guy scored a couple late. So that gives so Tech has a little momentum, winning by 5-6 touchdowns like you're supposed to do. Missouri did what they were supposed to do against the Bulldogs. Clemson does not want to win by 8 or 9 or 10. I'm sure they want to win by 24. If Tech can block them, they'll have a fighting man's chance. Got a pretty good guys on the defensive side of the ball. Tech's got really good receivers. That's probably their strong point. Yeah. But they're going to have to run. They were only able to run for 8 or 9 yards at Missouri. Last week they had a kid rush for 16 times for 200 in the first half against the SFA Lumberjacks. So it's been feast or famine the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, it just seems like with Clemson, every year they have a good defense. Like last year, they called it a down year, and you're 10-3. So how could that be a down year? Yeah, I remember we were talking about this last week, Adam, about Bobby Bowden said a couple of years ago, like if you're 8-3 and somebody's talking about how bad you are, that means they're talking about you, and that's a good thing they're talking about you. And if you're not 3-8, and I still think 10-3 and they wanted Dabo Swinney to be fired. I'm like, what are you doing, people? Seriously, you went to a bowl game, you won the Cheez-It Bowl. We got more cheese in South Carolina than anybody else now. Come on, give me a break. Seriously.
No, fans they're a spoiled bunch. They are, and that's never going to change. Tech went to 7 straight bowl games. Of course, Skip Holtz, who y'all are familiar with, he was with the Gamecocks a while. He was here. The Bulldogs won 6 straight bowl games. Then COVID year, they're 5-5. Then it was a disaster last season at 3-9, and Coach Holtz was replaced by a young guy from out at West Texas, at Texas Tech and TCU roots, named Sonny Cumbie. So Sonny likes to throw it all over the place. This is his first coaching job. And, people are – I was thinking back on those 6 straight bowl wins. The Bulldogs didn't win a conference championship, though. They played 2 conference championship games and didn't win them. And fans were upset. But you're scoring 50 a game and winning 8, 9 games a year. And it's hard to win games. It's really, really hard. Little League, women's basketball, tiddlywinks, whatever. It's hard to win games. Other guys are competing too. Anyway, Sonny Cumbie, tell you about him real quick. He's 40 years old. He's y'all's kind of guy. He's a West Texas guy. He walked on at Texas Tech. He did his time, and when he was a senior, he started, and he led the nation in passing. And he beat the Green Bay quarterback.
Okay.
Thank you, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. Wow. Remember that guy?
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers and then Texas Tech did in a bowl game, beat California. Anyway, he's a guy who stays the course. He's not like a lot of kids today. They bolt. He walked on, did his time, learned, led the nation in passing at Texas Tech, and he's just a really authentic, fun guy. And I'm looking for him. I'm so glad he's got a chance. This is a good program for him to get a chance at. And I hope in 3 or 4 years he's probably gone to another school. That will mean he did really, really well here.
That's cool. So what is your keys for Louisiana Tech to pull off a miracle? Like you saw Texas Tech with Texas A&M losing to Appalachian State last week. Anything can happen on Saturday. It all depends on who shows up and who has the right offense and who's not taking things lightly. And I feel like Clemson I think they have a meeting with Wake Forest next week. So it seems like they have to be ready for a really tough Wake Forest team. And you don't want to look ahead because a lot of coaches don't do that. But I look at it from this way, like, you still need to play, Louisiana Tech no matter what.
Right. And Texas used to play in big school. I mean, they lost by a point to Carolina, 4 years ago. They were up 5 touchdowns on Mississippi State last year. Lost in triple overtime at Kansas State within the last 6 years. They're used to that. It's just the problem with this bunch is it's a bunch of new guys. They're all but one coach is new. So you're still learning where to get your shirt starched, who's playing for you, where to buy milk. So, they've been together. They're 2 games old now. And it's true that they will be out-athleted at Clemson. So somebody's going to have to block. I mean, as simple as it sounds, if you can't block people, you're not going to be able to win. So they're probably not going to be able to block them consistently. So you hope Sonny Cumbie and the gang have come up with some way to get the ball to what is a really good group of receivers that the Bulldogs have. They have all kind of flavors of guys, big guys, little guys, fast guys, tough guys, and just have to get the ball to them. One guy to look out for is number 5, Smoke Harris. You will like Smoke. He's 5'6". He's the size of Boston Scott, who's the running back for Philadelphia, who came to Tech and walked on, and now has been in the league 3 years. Really improved when he got here. The Smoke's a little guy who's going to return punts, and they'll use him, run some reverses with him, try to get the ball to him any way they can. That's the strength of their team is their receivers.
Yeah. So talk about being part of the radio broadcast. And you and Malcolm do a great job together. It seems like you guys have fun. Just talk about Malcolm. What does he bring to the broadcast when you, with your good expertise, do you guys have some fun?
Yeah, I've known Malcolm now for a while and have been doing this 11 or 12 years. Malcolm's been doing football only for a couple, but he's been the voice of Lady Texters and softball, and he's been a broadcaster for a long time. And we do try to. I mean, you can't talk bubble screen all the time or just go absolutely insane. So, and especially if you're in Missouri getting beat by 3 or 4 touchdowns, it kind of less is more. So we're really looking forward to Death Valley. It's been a while since Malcolm's been there, and it's been 1970 since I've been there. Wow. As far as doing the radio, I never expected to do it. They asked me, and I said, I've got the perfect voice for newspaper and perfect face for radio. I'm just a recovering sports writer, but it's been a joy to do it. And, to be around the fellows and you root for them because you know them. If I was doing the games for Clemson, I'd be rooting for those guys because I know them. So you want people, to do well. I just hope everybody plays well Saturday. It's a special place to me. I was 8 or 9 years old in Dillon County, between Florence and Myrtle Beach is where I grew up. Tobacco farming people, 750 people in my town. And these guys who were 23, 4, and 5 took me to the game. Again, I'm 9, 10 years old. So it's a haul to Clemson. And of course, why they did this, I do not know, but they did. And we stood up on the hill before it was closed in. I didn't know there were this many people in the world. I didn't know there were that many colors. And when the roar of the crowd, it was just intoxicating to me. And I said, I got to figure out some way to be around this all the time. And I often wonder what I'd be doing if they hadn't have took me to that game. I'm sure I slept all the way home. It was like Christmas to me. Tommy Suggs was the Carolina quarterback. They won by a couple of points, 20-something to 20-something. It was a high-scoring game. B.B. Elvington was a defensive tackle that started 3 years back in the late 60s for the Tigers. And he was from our town of 750 people, started 3 years at defensive tackle. So he was like a mythical person. So we were all going to see BB play. He was not like a real guy. I'd see him at the IGA, downtown or getting gas at the Esso. Oh my God, it's BB. So a lot of good memories from being at Clemson. Looking forward to coming back.
That's cool. That's awesome. You're going back home, and you're the little like I say, I say something about myself. Little Chris is going to be really happy. Little Teddy's going to be really happy to be back home.
That's back when they had Iptay in the end zone. I paid $10 a year, whatever it was. And apparently everybody did that because they closed that section on where we stood at 50 years ago.
Nice. Well, I hope you go there, and hopefully, your team you covered does a really good job, so you actually feel like something happened when you got there, and it makes you feel like your trip back home is something worth it instead of seeing a blowout and you'd be like,
So we're looking forward to it. It's just the third game of the season. If the Bulldogs have a tough time, we'll talk them off the ledge and say, "Has a lot more ball to play. You can still go 10-2 and go to bowl games. So don't panic and enjoy the experience, and we'll learn from it and keep rolling."
That's cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on tonight, and enjoy your trip back home. And it's really cool that you're going back home, and people are going to go, "Hey, look, I'm a broadcaster."
What? I know that guy. He used to drive the tractor for me in Lakeview. Yeah. Okay. I enjoyed it, guys. Thank you. Best of luck too. Okay. See you later.
All right, later.
You bet.
All right. That is so cool.
Yeah, it's like
I think about the same thing sometimes going back to Long Island and go to Oceanside where I was born.
Yeah,
and stop in there and do a game, and everybody gonna go, "You lived here?" I'm like, yeah, I live down the street and down.
Yeah, it's like for me, whenever time I go up to New England Crescent School, I think about all the memories I had as a kid going to summer camp, and it's like you never. It's called. They'll always be with you, no matter what. So it's like it's always cool to go back to New England in the summer.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. You can come back home again.
I can go. Yeah,
this sounds like a John Denver theme song tonight. We got country roads, and we got. It's great to be back home again.
Yeah.
Well, there are John Denver themes we got this week on this program. It's pretty funny. I didn't realize that. But it's pretty cool.
Can't go home again. It's like I can go home to New England every summer and go see friends and family and enjoy myself. I mean,
I hope he has a great time. I hope he has a great time, and I'll be watching that game when I get home from wherever I'm going.
You can get some South Carolina barbecue while he's there.
Yeah, that's true. Well, last week I know you were home Saturday. I was up in State College watching Penn State taking on Ohio, and that was a Penn State track meet. Pretty much they blew out.
Yes, it was, Chris. Yep.
So let me play an interview I had with. I talked to Sean Clifford, the quarterback, after the game, and it's a little bit in this video I made it myself. So hope you guys enjoy it. So here it is. Hold on.
The top three, not much to say there. They're great players, but to be able to get Trey involved, and I thought Amari getting involved as well. Caden Saunders, my brother, Malik Mega, I think that across the board it was nice to get them in. You see the talent they have there. It's just hard when you have three guys that can make plays like they do, but at the same time, it's all about competition. We just keep talking about it, but it really is. It's a competitive environment right now.
Sean, you talked to Coach your such about more completions, improving the completion percentage from last week a little bit, just the flow of the offense. It seemed like you were doing shorter passes out wide just to keep things more of a flow, almost like on the touchdown drive against Purdue. Did you guys make any kind of fundamental scheme change or anything like that just to you know what I'm saying, to kind of improve the completion percentage and keep the offense in a better flow?
We have something, 1% better each week that we want to get better at. And one of the things that I wanted to do was be able to get the ball.
All right, I think what happened was somehow that program I had cut it off. But I asked him about having a running back, great because he had a Singleton, his running back, rushed over 137 yards with 2 touchdowns, and they haven't had that in a very long time there at Penn State. So something happened with that interview. We'll play it down the road, and I guess it got cut off, or I don't know what happened there. So, hey, what do you get when you're doing everything yourself?
True. That's true, Chris. That is absolutely true.
Yeah. So it's 8:03. We're waiting for our good friend Daniel Wilcox to join us. Let's talk about other stuff going on this week. Let's do another stuff we do all the time here. Let's do On This Date. We do a lot of On This Date here on the program here. Let me bring it up here. Do I have it? Yeah, On This Date here. Oh, I got it lined up here somewhere. Oh, yeah, On This Date in 1997, John Elway's jersey was retired by the Broncos, and last night the Broncos needed a field goal kicker that couldn't hit 164 yards.
Yeah. I mean, and Russell Wilson's debut at the Broncos and loses to his former team. But it's called. I have a good friend to Louisiana, and he's a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. So I think he still has a voice after last night.
Yeah. Well, this is also on this date in 2019. Some guy named Eddie Money who sang a great song, "Ticket to Paradise." I had that in my head all day when I was editing, and I do have a quick clip, so you and I can enjoy it real quick. Okay, this is back in 1979, so here it is. Good old Eddie Money. Yeah, I saw him on the King of Queens. You remember that episode of the King of Queens when Kevin James had all that money he wanted from that boxing match, and he goes, "Here we go," and he brings Eddie Money over the house, and he's like, "Dude, take it to paradise," and then like, and Kevin James is like, "Oh crap, I have to put $100 back in the cabinet." You know, so sad he passed away. 70 years. 2019 at age 70. But you still try. I'm still trying to find that 2 tickets to paradise.
Yep, I haven't found it yet.
I know you're a Atlanta Braves guy, so hopefully they take on Mark Packer's San Francisco Giants. So maybe we'll try to get a hold of Mark Packer next week. Maybe he can give us.
Of course, Chris.
But he does a show 4 to 7, so I don't know what in the afternoon now on the ACC network. But little flashback to on this day from Met history. We got to talk about the Braves. And
we have to. We do. We do, Chris.
Let's bring this clip in here real quick. I think I have it. Yeah, here it is. So Mets were down 3 runs in the 9th at Turner Field, who's now home of the Georgia State Panthers football stadium. So the Mets came back with 2 outs in the 9th inning. And then somebody named Daniel Murphy, who was hot at this time in that September, he was all over the place. Here's that sweet swing by Daniel Murphy. Man, that playoff game against the Cubs, it was like so good. But it was funny. The Mets won the game in the 10th inning by scoring 3 more runs. It was the first time they swept the Braves in Atlanta since 1989.
Yeah, I remember.
In a 4-game series.
I remember that game in 2015. It's like,
hey, you guys are going to be. It's going to be going down to the wire here. Between us and the Atlanta Braves. That's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Let's do our picks a click real quick for this week. Who do you got in the? Did you check all the schedules this week for the games?
I did, Chris, and actually, last week, I picked Georgia Southern to beat Nebraska. So
I didn't know. I forgot you did that. Oh no, we didn't get a chance to.
So this week for my upset of the week, wow. I mean, there's so many good games, non-conference games. But I don't think this is going to be an upset. But I think Appalachian State continues the momentum and wins at home against Troy.
Okay. And they're playing that game at 3:30.
Appalachian State at 3:30 on ESPN Plus. So you viewers can and the voice of the Mountaineers, David Jackson is going to be doing the play-by-play for the game. So
nice. So you're going to pick Appalachian State over Troy.
Yes, I am. I have Mountaineer pride.
We're waiting for a Mr. Mountaineer himself, Daniel Wilcox, I hope to join us because I texted him around 4 o'clock this afternoon. He said he's all set. So So hopefully we'll get him to join us here shortly. Yeah, he runs a little behind. I'm not worried.
Oh yeah.
If not, he could join us with. I don't think Dave Vermont really cares.
No, I mean, yeah.
So I'm going to pick this one. I'm not saying because I'm going to the game, but I really seriously think Towson has a chance to beat West Virginia.
Wow.
Because here's the thing. West Virginia is struggling right now.
Yeah.
If you look at the stats, Towson's defense has only given up 17.3 a game.
Yes.
Okay. West Virginia's defense has given up, close to 40 points a game. So those two games was against, but they played tough opponents in Pittsburgh and last week. Kansas wasn't that tough, but Kansas took them to overtime and scored 55 points.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Towson. Hopefully, because Towson hasn't beat a Power 5 squad since they beat Georgia's UConn Huskies.
That is true, Chris.
Yes. Yeah.
True.
So it's been a long time for that one. So I'm going to pick. I might be wrong on this one, but I pick Towson over West Virginia. Not because I'm going to cover the ball game.
I know.
But I just feel like Towson's due for a big win.
Yeah.
They haven't had one. Haven't had one in so long, and I feel like they deserve one because they've been playing these Power 5 schools very tough down to the wire, and you can see these Power 5 squads. They have better horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Towson, yes, they haven't played anybody good on their schedule. Okay, Morgan State, our good friend Coach Wilson's changing that program around. But on the other hand, playing a Bucknell squad that was actually a Patriot division. I think they won the Patriots division, the Patriot League. So it's still but Towson is due a big win.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping I'm right. I could be right, I could be wrong. You definitely are right now. I think if you're a betting man, I think you can probably win this ball game because Appalachian State is just rolling. And next week, dude, guess who they take on? Good old JMU.
That is true.
Both teams that know how to score points. So
that's true. And I think it's being played at Appalachian State in Boone. So
exactly. Other games this weekend, you might want to put a circle around. You got Penn State going down to Auburn. They're going to be playing our good friend Mike Gross, who had good praises about you, sir. He enjoys enjoys coming on the show and dealing and talking with you. So he told me that he really enjoys having our conversation with each other. So he'll be heading down there 3:30 on CBS on Saturday. On CBS. So that's going to be a very interesting game. Auburn does have a good defense, but the quarterback play is the same as last year, crappy. And then you have Penn State, who I saw last week used 3 quarterbacks in a game, and I think that's smart, just because of one reason. Sean Clifford last year at this time was rolling until he got hurt. I think in the next couple games he got Penn State was 5-0 and everything was going perfectly for the Nittany Lions, and all of a sudden they got hurt in Iowa. I feel like if they win, Penn State now needs, so they brought in 2 other quarterbacks, dude, and they were pretty good. They knew what to do with the offense. Yes, they're redshirt freshmen and all that stuff, but hey, what do you expect? Another big game is this one's on Friday night. You can't forget this one.
No. Florida State goes to Louisville, and Chris, we remember it happened when Florida State played Louisville a couple years ago. Some guy named Lamar Jackson.
Lamar was
Seminoles.
Wait a minute, Adam. You got to think. I just think I saw Lamar score another touchdown.
It's like
he's still scoring on my team. Damn it, stop it.
Yeah, and Chris, I believe Lamar Jackson won the Heisman Trophy that year. So it's like, but it's a new year. Coach Scott Satterfield up there in Louisville. We'll have his Cardinals ready, but Coach Mike Norvell, Scott, he'll have a lot of momentum after what happened in the Superdome. So
right. Right. I got to show you a picture. This is what the helmets they're going to be playing. They're going to be using. Let me bring it out. Let me take a picture of it for you and send it to you. Let me put it on the program here.
I've seen the white helmets.
Yeah. What's your take on that?
It's different.
It's different. But I'm a traditional, Seminole guy.
I know it's called. I know the garnet and gold. I know, but hopefully it's one time only, and we can get.
It looks like more like, what it does? It looks like more like Miami.
Yeah. It's like, that's not, I mean, I'm not used to that. It's called, I want to see the garnet helmet. I want to see the garnet and gold helmet,
Yeah.
But I think Florida State is going to, Jordan Travis has been impressive so far, Chris. And, those wide receivers,
I like this jersey better.
Yes, that's what I'm used to after watching for so many years. It's like,
yeah,
yes.
But my thing worrying about Florida State is we've been out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and we had the momentum going with the last week we had Jeff Coline on. I messed up his last name. If he's watching, I apologize for messing up your last name, Jeff. Hope you do a great job with the broadcast. But 2 weeks off since you beat LSU, I don't know what they've been doing down there. It's like I don't believe it. I don't believe in bye weeks in college football. I think it's stupid.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think they need to keep rolling and get it done. What are we in the NFL? You need a bye week. Yeah, and you play on a Friday night. So say, look at the schedule. You played Sunday, Labor Day Sunday. So that's what, the 4th.
Yep.
And then you don't play until this week. It's the 16th, right? So you've been off.
Yeah.
So you've been off for like 10 plus days, And Jordan Travis, yes, he's fine. He's probably healthy now. But we don't know. It's going to be rusty in the first quarter, and I'm sorry. And they need to keep it rolling.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. It's like I think Florida State is going to win that game. I really do.
Yeah, I hope to too. They'll be 3-0, and they have Boston College next Saturday night down there in
8 p.m. on the ACC network.
And then if Florida State wins, that could be a college game day destination because Florida State hasn't been on for a little while.
That's true. So you go from Purdue, North Carolina to potentially Tallahassee, Florida. But we'll see what happens after Saturday night.
Well, we got it. Also, here's a game we're going to be previewing tonight on the program. Let's bring this guy. Let's bring it in here. Miami rolling into College Station. I actually have a pass for this game, dude. But
really? You mean down in College Station?
Yeah, I have a pass for it. But the problem is the airfare is too expensive to get there.
Wow.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and I'm like, okay, it's just me going down there. And looking at it, it's expensive. It's like for a one-way trip, it's like $200.
What?
Yeah, I forget that idea. I'm not going to waste my time. It's like and I don't. No offense, I don't understand these athletic, these sports information director people. You wait until like the week before the game to tell somebody you approve.
That's crazy. I thought you would say like at least at least like August.
Yeah. So let's bring in our good friend Daniel Wilcox. Before we do, we gotta share him with love here. Let's play that
starter on the O-line. Bryce takes it, falls to the ground, and Appalachian State has done it again. They come to College Station and they take down the number 6 team in the country.
What a dominant performance by the Mountaineers. So much heart, so much passion.
Well, Dan, how are you doing today? You're so excited about that win?
I'm doing great, guys. Yeah, man, I'm super excited about that win, man. I had a whole little interview with TexasA&M and the guy that played there. His name was Swope. And I told him, I said, hey, man, you got to be careful now. App State's not coming to this thing looking to lay down.
Exactly. Yeah. Big win for you guys. You haven't beat that's the first top 5 win since Michigan. That's like a long time ago. That's like being in college. Yeah, for me. Yeah,
I was actually playing in Baltimore, Chris, when they beat Michigan. I think that was my 4th or 5th year in the NFL. that year. So I mean, when I played at App State, we beat Wake Forest. We came this close to beating Clemson and this close to beating Auburn. So I mean, it wasn't no big deal to me. It's something that we do on a consistent basis at App State.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about last Sunday in the rain in the Meadowlands, I guess, or MetLife Stadium. It's a nice stadium. I like MetLife. I've been there a couple of times. It's very nice. It's a nice stadium. I'm sorry there's two teams playing in Jersey. Somebody should have their own ballpark. That's just my opinion because I'm from New York. Yeah. The Jets going in there with Joe Flacco. So what do you think about Flacco's performance?
I thought Flacco played a heck of a game, man. Like I really did. I think he still looked great. I think he gave him an opportunity to win, and that's all you can ask for. He took a lot of shots, man. The Ravens really defense played well, and they got out the Flacco's, but every single play. So every play he had pressure. They contested almost every throw he made. They made every throw a tough throw, and then their DBs was all over those guys. So I mean, Flacco didn't have an easy game, and for him to still have over 300 yards passing, I think that just shows the kind of a player and the type of competitor that he still is.
Yeah, I was looking at the stats. The Jets did outgain the Ravens 370 yards to 274, but it doesn't show up on the scoreboard. It shows up a loss. So I feel like there's something in between that, because a lot of people in New York are still making crappy jokes about the Jets. I feel like the Jets did okay. They didn't catch the ball. There were some passes I saw when I was watching the game. It was right to some of the wide receivers' hands, and they're just dropping it.
That's correct, Chris. I mean, there was a lot of things that they did where they're not all the way a complete team yet, but they can compete this year, man. They couldn't. I don't think they competed as good as last year as they did this year. So I think if they just continues to stick on the path that they're going, I think the GM Joe Douglas, he's doing a phenomenal job up there, and I think they're going to continue to get better. They're going to continue to grow and mature. They're going to mature right into a really decent team pretty soon, and people are going to be scared to play the Jets after a while.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Lamar Jackson. What did you see in his performance? To me, I felt like it was a preseason game for him because he didn't play in the preseason. He was a little rusty in the first half, but it felt like around the second half he got himself back to what he was doing.
Absolutely, Chris. So this is my depiction of the whole thing. Like people say he didn't play in the preseason. That's correct. He also got hurt last season, so he didn't play the whole almost second half of the season last year. So to see him come out, to me, to start a little bit slow was not a problem or issue at all for me. I felt like he played phenomenal. I figured he was going to come out and have a couple of tough series early on in that game. But as he settled down and matured, he went through his maturation process. I felt like he was going to play great. I think he did. I think he threw some great touchdown passes. He threw a no-look pass to Duvernay that I thought was phenomenal. It was an awesome throw. And it just goes to show you how comfortable that Lamar is starting to get. And he's starting to really believe in his abilities, and he's starting to go into his bag of tricks. So now you're starting to see a 23-year-old kid, kind of go into his bag of tricks and start making some throws and stuff that you haven't seen 23-year-olds make. For that no look pass that he threw to Duvernay for the touchdown was one of the prettiest throws I think I've seen in a long time. And then that deep ball he threw to Bateman down the middle of the field, I felt like it was in the air for about 2 years, man. He threw that thing a long way. And it was beautiful to see him throw it in stride, catch him in stride, and didn't even flinch. It looked automatic.
Yeah. Adam, you got a question for
Daniel? First of all, Daniel, go Appalachian State. You're probably pretty pumped about ESPN College Game Day going to Kid Brewer Stadium on Saturday.
I am, Adam. I am.
I wonder if they've asked you, to be the celebrity guest picker yet.
Guest kicker? I can't kick the ball, Adam.
Kicker. Picker.
Yeah, I would love to be. They got a lot of guys to choose from now. At one point in time, Adam, I would have been the celebrity, whatever they had at App State.
The celebrity guest picker.
Now they got about 15, 20 guys in the NFL now.
Yeah.
I'm the last person they want to see.
Yeah.
Well, come on. That would be fun to have you do it. I think it would be great.
But give us a couple of keys, how the Ravens can go 2-0 against the Dolphins on Sunday.
Well, I kind of reviewed the game from last year, Week 10 against the Dolphins. And one thing I noticed, Adam, from last year was that the Dolphins games, you could tell they put together a game plan where they was going to try to come out and just be tougher than the Ravens. They didn't come out like the normal Miami Dolphins played. They came out like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They tried to beat up our receivers. They tried to touch Lamar every single time he dropped back. They was in his face the entire time. They gave Lamar pure hell last year. They blitzed somebody every single play. I think they safety had over 20 plus blitzes in that game. So I mean, and when you looked at it, they was just being extremely physical. They knew if they was going to have a chance to compete with the Ravens, they had to play the Ravens game of football, and they couldn't play the Miami Dolphins, just chill, finesse type game. They came and they tried to out physical the Ravens, and they won. They succeeded. They took the Ravens by surprise. The Ravens wasn't expecting the Dolphins to come out that physical, that aggressive, and they won the battle because of it. So to me, it's one of those things where the Ravens got to come in there and treat them like they're the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Like it's the biggest rivalry of the year, and they can't just lack off and go in and think this is going to be an easy game for them. And they got to prepare for greatness. They got to come in and be as physical as the Ravens always are and put their best foot forward. I think the Ravens got a chance to win this thing hands down, and it's always about phases, right? I feel like every week there's 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And we can figure out a way to win 2 of those phases. Then I think we got a chance to win every game we play. So going 2-0 is not that big of a deal for a team like the Baltimore Ravens. We're healthy right now. I think this is our opportunity to start stacking some wins.
Right, exactly. Well, Daniel, real quick, I want to say congratulations for your Appalachian State. Keep the momentum going. And next week, you guys play JMU next week, so that's going to be a very interesting game next week with 2 teams know how to put points on the scoreboard. I think the scoreboard needs to be a little bit bigger down there in Appalachian State.
It's pretty big, Chris. If you ever get a chance to go to Boone, North Carolina to see an App State game, man, you won't regret it.
I actually did something. Put in for passes for next week. I don't know if I get approved for the JMU game because my parents have a house in Harrisonburg, so maybe I could get some special pass or something because I would love to see what it looks like.
Yeah, if you can get some press. Go ahead, Adam. Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said, Kid Brewer Stadium is really beautiful, isn't it, Daniel?
It's gorgeous, man. It sits down. Valley, like Boone, North Carolina, sits down in this little valley type thing. And it's just, it's beautiful, man. You go in, you see trees and mountains all around the stadium. They've built it up on 3 of the 4 sides now. One side is the scoreboard side, where it's just a hill where the kids slide up and down on game day, and then it's a huge scoreboard and some bathrooms and stuff like that. But the other 3 sides have been built up so nicely now, man. It's it's a piece of art, man. If you get a chance to go up there and see it, the fan base is tremendous. The student base is always at the game. I don't care how cold it is, they got their shirts off with App State written on it. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool experience, man. They're going to come out in full effect. They're not going to let you down on ESPN next week.
No. Hey, do I drop your name? Do I get free parking?
If you drop my name to the right person, you just might.
Okay, just checking.
All right, cool.
That works. All right, boss man. We'll see you next week when we recap the Dolphins, and then I guess we take on Bill Belichick and the Patriots next week. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, can't wait. Using my Bart Scott phrase. Can't wait.
Can't wait. All right, buddy. Have a great week. Okay.
Thanks, Daniel.
All right, see you, man. Bye.
All right. Bye, Adam. Bye, Chris.
See you, dude.
See ya.
All right, that's Daniel Wilcox, former Baltimore Ravens. We do this every week, folks, with the Ravens this year. So hopefully we'll talk more about Ravens Dolphins next week, and we'll do all that. Speaking of Dolphins, this gentleman is down in South Florida, no longer working for the mothership. He has his own mothership. I got to say, he has a bigger mothership than anybody else we know. Dave Vermont, who is the voice of everything, our good friend. And I sent you a birthday wish a couple months ago. I don't know if you got it. Did you get it on Facebook?
Back in May, I'm pretty sure I did. Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Adam, it's great to see you, man.
Thank you. Now, Chris, I can say I met Dave in, what was it, 2016 at the World Series?
2017 in Reno at the World Series. Yeah, that was my first ESPN telecast for the men's tour.
You and Randy and Kimberly, and I went up to you and I introduced myself, and we've been friends ever since. So, actually, I saw you a couple years ago up in Portland, Maine for the PBA League.
Yeah, I'd like to get back there someday. That's a ton of fun to do that.
And I met you in Delaware back before the COVID, and you're there with Chris Barnes at the one in Delaware, and I'm like, you and I were talking before.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was
fun. That's right. Yeah, bowling. I just finished a 3-week run doing some PBA regional tour on the YouTube page. which I hope they will make their streaming platform for next year. But I don't have any insight on how that's going to turn out.
Yeah, we talked about it to Tom Clark when he was up in Portland, and we told him, let's just do it, because I think a lot of people, football was okay, but I feel like people can't afford that, every month, because with the stuff going on, if you put it on YouTube and it's free, you get more people to tune into it, and then you can probably pass it to your television. Yeah.
There's a couple things I think about it. You mentioned Flow. I worked for them off and on for the length of the contract, and I think they got off to a great start. They put a lot of documentaries. They had people, boots on the ground. And then when the pandemic hit, like a lot of companies, I'm sure they took a punch in the mouth financially. Yeah. But last year, all the telecasts I did, I was sitting in this very room, and I had very little access to any kind of resources from people like Chris Barnes and a few people who would text me information that I couldn't get because I wasn't there. It would have been really, really, really difficult. Hitting the road again, it changes your perspective as a broadcaster 1,000%. Now you can go and talk to the guys who are about to compete in that step ladder. And all these guys, and then they treat me great. So you can come back with some great stories and information that will enhance the broadcast. Plus, not to brag, and I certainly had almost nothing to do with numbers on YouTube are excellent. There's 40, 50, 60,000 views of these shows over time. And the beauty of it is, as you mentioned, doesn't cost anything, and it's accessible anytime. And I can't say. I think it's a good know what they're going to do. And I think it's a good move to have people there, even if you only cover step ladders that aren't going to be on Fox or FS1.
Right.
If you want to cover the lead up to it, maybe the day before you do the match play. If you're concerned about budgets, which everybody is, then you just say a guy like me in there the day before. I would do the day before the telecast, and then, which sometimes is a pro-am, but sometimes it isn't. Mm-hmm. And then I'm finished, and then Rob, and there you go. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm hoping, really, really hoping to be part of it.
Yeah. Well, we got you on tonight because you do you do more of the Miami Hurricanes now. You're on CaneSports.com. So you guys started a call-in show afterward. I got the message on my Facebook a couple weeks ago. Yep. How's that going on?
It's going all right. I think what we're trying to do is sort of jump ahead of the local radio show. Nothing against those guys, but when the game is going to go someplace to react, and we provide that opportunity live through CaneSport.com. It's on YouTube, Facebook. You can easily get to it. Who runs CaneSport.com has been covering Miami since, I think, 1905. It's unbelievable, Gary's level of experience. And Bruce Warner, who has been a lecturer and is also an attorney who has worked with a lot of players and is also a rabid Canes fan, has incredible connections with the program, is our other co-host. We'll be up pretty late with this 9 p.m. Eastern time start against Texas A&M Saturday. But it's going to be a fun venture, and we offer a chance, people to write in the comment section if they wish, or we have phone calls set up. You can do either way. And if you're happy, let us know it. And if you're not, I know you'll let us know it.
Yeah, I hear it from my brother all the time because he's a Miami Hurricane guy. He goes, we lost. Okay. All right. What happened? Well, we didn't have this and this and that. And I'm like, okay. And then even the other day he broke his phone. I'm like, that's nice. What did you do that for? He goes, well, we didn't score. Okay, that's really good. Take it out on technology there, buddy. That's a smart thing to do.
Well, I can help him with that.
Yeah, it's called 1-800. I need help. But anyway,
have him call the show.
Yeah, I'll tell him. I'll tell him to call you, and you'll be a therapist. But speaking of that, I was doing some research. Did you know Jimbo is 7-0 against Miami?
Yeah, he caught him at a bad time when he was at Florida State, and a good time for him. But this is a different. He had better teams at Florida State, better talent. Well, I shouldn't say better talent, but better teams. Now, it was interesting. As soon as they led that game to Appalachian State, very quickly the stat was put up in the same number of games. I think it's 60. And Kevin Sumlin, who was fired before Jimbo got there, had actually than Fisher through the first 60 or 50, something like that. It's an embarrassing loss for A&M at home. Now, Appalachian State is not a program at all. Their previous coach went to Missouri in the SEC, so they've been a pain to a lot of schools for a lot of time. But A&M was once again highly rated with very high expectations, and they kind of yawned their way through Sam Houston State, scored only 31 points. They almost never have the football. They are eaten alive in time of possession. So around here in South Florida, among the Hurricanes fans, there was all this, oh my God, everything counts. This whole thing is, this is the greatest, biggest thing of all time, which Hurricane fans tend to overhype games, mainly because we haven't had one yet this year. But, in this desperate desire for the U to be back, an opportunity stepping stone without question. But A&M has got bigger problems than Miami does in my book.
Yeah, well, this is the first meeting for Miami and Texas A&M since 2008, when Miami just rolled into College Station and just spanked them pretty much. It was not pretty. I have a clip here. Let me try to find it real quick. I found.
I guess it was.
Yeah, it was pretty for Miami fans. I know that. But for Texas A&M guys, so. Yeah, this is back in 2008, and they were back in the Big 12 at the time.
Robert Marv, wow.
Yeah. Look at that defense.
That's.
Yeah. So that's not bad. Beating a Texas A&M squad in 2008, that was with Al Golden as their coach, right? Was Golden the coach?
You broke up a tiny bit there. What was the question?
Yeah. I was saying, was Golden the head coach at that time? Was it somebody, or was it what's his name? Not Coker. Coker left way before that.
It's either Randy or Golden.
Yeah.
No, Larry, Randy Shannon.
Shannon? Okay, Randy. I gotta ask. You and my brother are like Miami guys. I should call them up.
I think so.
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, it's gonna be but they haven't played each other since 2000.
Well, a lot has happened in 14 years. Right. It's a great matchup, and I think for Miami, him losing, obviously it's an important game. Look, you fattened up on two softer teams to begin the year, which I thought under a brand new coach was a good idea. Obviously, when they scheduled these games, they didn't realize they were going to have a different coach. But they ripped through Bethune-Cookman, which is HBCU in Daytona Beach, which they knew. Obviously there's a huge talent gap there. First half last Saturday, admittedly on offense anyway, was not impressive. To go up 10-7 at the half. Second half, I thought pretty much dominated the game in the second, especially in the third quarter, and especially on defense. The quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, is going to have to play considerably better. And he would be the first one to tell you. Now, this is the flea flicker touchdown to a very promising receiver in Evans. Mm-hmm. And that was the one big play of the day, or Keyshawn Smith, excuse me. I happen to know Keyshawn mixed up. Keyshawn Smith.
Yeah.
But here's another issue with Miami. What's missing from this offense is what helped define ball as it grew from the early 80s through their 20-plus year run was playmaking receivers, guys that just scared defense. And they had a few of those, a couple of them last year. They don't have one right now. They're looking for one. They're literally auditioning during the games. They have Restrepo, the reliable best friend of the quarterback guy who's got very good hands. The tight ends have disappointed so far, and that was expected to be. It hasn't been through the first two games. And I'm expecting, guys, and I don't think this is any big surprise, that Miami's going to try to run the ball first. Unless they're going to do the old switcheroo and say, we spent 2 games setting up this run game to make you think we're going to run the ball, and now we're going to chuck it. But I don't know if they have anybody yet that can get the separation downfield. And look, this is a massive step up in athletic class.
Exactly. Adam, you got a question for Dave?
Now, Dave, this year you called the telecast for the PWBA tour on CBS Sports Network. You had a
couple of them, yeah.
Ballard as your analyst, Kelly Kulick. So I got to ask, your favorite memory from the 2022 PWBA tour season?
Seeing Kelly throw a 300 was fun, even though it wasn't on a telecast.
Yeah.
Kelly's a pal and somebody I've known for a long time. When I broke into bowling announcing, Adam, I was doing women's telecasts only. And Kelly that was her run. That was her 2010, the year that she did everything. The year before she had won the Tournament of Champions. She had a dominant couple of years stretch. And at that time, there was no tour. You can imagine how many titles she would have won if they had had a tour like they do now, even this kind of sprint that they have for the PWBA. I would think that watching Brianna Clemmer win.
Yes.
He dominated that building. That was Florida. And that was as dominant a performance because I also bowl TV too, but I think that was the most dominant performance that I saw on the PWBA tour this year. Those are some wonderful people to talk to, by the way. And again, there in person, which I hadn't been before, and renewing some relationships with folks that I had become friendly with over the years was a personal highlight. Probably those two stood out, was Kelly's 300 and Brianna.
Yeah. Actually, I knew I met Brianna when she was part of the Teen Masters. When it was at the World Series of Bowling. So she, her mom, and her dad are, the whole Clemmer family is just really nice to talk to. I gotta say that was a really cool highlight for me, seeing her win her first career title. Shannon O'Keefe was her head coach at McKendree. So, message Brianna saying congratulations, so it was really cool to see her win.
Yep.
Yeah, they're really nice people. They're, all the bowlers are very nice. Men, women, they're good people. I love them. I love talking to them.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Dave, I'm putting out on my show, you're doing your call-in show after the Texas A&M game. So it's probably going to be like, 1 in the morning by the time everything starts up, or what?
Honestly, yeah, we were my partners about that. We've been averaging about an hour 45 on these shows, and I'm like, I don't know if we want to do an hour 45 this time because it's going to be in the morning when we crawl into our respective beds. But listen, if people want to talk, if they want to post comments, we'll wait. We'll put in there for them. So yeah, I would say maybe one or guess, but if you check the start times, we don't know about the Middle Tennessee State game yet. Probably an afternoon game, probably at 12 or 3:30 when we'll go on within probably 10 or 15 minutes of when the teams enter the locker rooms. And then one of our Gary is actually at the games from there and actually called in Saturday while driving home from Hard Rock Stadiums, and he did not get into an accident. I don't recommend you do that, but you just hit the road and you want to call in, do it safely. But yeah, it's been fun so far, and it's an intriguing time for Miami football. There is, it's a little silly to say because you could be talking to me and I could be talking about dozens of teams with new coaches this year about excitement and new vigor and all this other stuff. I do believe the Hurricane fans got the guy they wanted in Mario Cristobal. Now, there's always that classic, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. It hasn't faced any kind of a crisis yet. Although people were very disappointed in that first half last week, it all worked out. This game, the good news for me, guys, is that this game, I no longer think is the holy mother of everything. If they don't win, we're screwed game that it looked like it was going to. I think you still have you have one more non-ACC game, and then a week off, and then it's almost like another season starts, and it's all ACC. From what I've seen of the ACC so far, while Clemson looks like the best team, they might have quarterback issues. The rest of the conference, nobody's really dominant. It looks like now that could be good because one of the great debates you could ever have in college football or college is it better to have one or two, maybe three real kick butt teams, or is it better to have the unpredictability of nobody could win any week and nobody sticks out? Now that means you're not ranked highly, but you have great balance. So I don't know which is better from a competitive standpoint. In basketball, I think that's better But in football, I think it's probably better for perception to have a Clemson or an Ohio State or someone like that atop your conference and all these.
That's true. Well, if you want to talk to Dave and Gary or Bruce, or my brother needs a therapist, then you can call that number at the bottom of the screen. That's the number 563-999-3550. And you can talk to either or, and therapist Dave will be available after 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'll tell my brother to call you.
It may have to be Dr. Dave, but I'm ready for him. Just make sure he tells me who he is, and
Yes, I will tell him.
We'll treat him. We'll treat him gently.
Yeah. Hey, that kid knows more about that kid.
Interesting time.
Since he was a kid. Yeah.
It's an interesting time. I mean, you look at these legacy programs that from 20, 30 years ago, this USC, Nebraska, and a few others that were guaranteed 9, 10, 11 wins, national titles, BCS title, major bowl games. And lately it's just not happening. And every year there's this massive amount of hope. And it seems like every year they just bring in new people and then they're failing left and right. Texas was so close to winning that game Saturday. But at the end, it was the Heisman Trophy winner who willed that team to victory. I was so impressed watching that because Texas actually, at least on the defensive side of the ball, looks really good. They're fast as hell. But unfortunately, now they've got a quarterback guy got hurt. So that could be a big blow. Nebraska, what's going on there. It's sad. And I wonder if people if could even think of Nebraska in the way that we did 20, 30 years ago. I'm not so sure anymore. Right. USC, they keep throwing money at people and hoping they can land the guy. They went after Lincoln Riley this time. Good start so far, but they're probably overrated and they're due for a difficult time, maybe Utah. But there's all these fan bases, and certainly Miami fans are among them, that are just so desperate for the old days to come back. And now they brought in a played there, and it's a wide open book right now. The one thing they did do, guys, you probably are aware of this, but maybe some of your audience isn't. Brought in Dan Radakovich, who used to be at Clemson, to be the athletic director. They gave him more money to throw around than ever before.
Wow.
Never has Miami football had a spending spree for assistant coaches like they have here. They get Josh Gaddis to run the offense. He was at Michigan last year. Charm's been the head coach at South Florida, Louisville, and Texas, is a linebackers coach. He's not even the defensive coordinator. And Charlie Strong, who's a terrific recruiter, is on this staff as a linebackers coach. They brought in, some local high school coaches, Pat Surtain Sr., who was a first-round pick with Denver last year, was a high school coach a mile from my house and a highly successful one. They brought him in to help nail down local recruits. Too many had gotten away from what is an absolute mine of incredible talent. Brandon's an Ohio State commit, but Miami is still trying to flip him. It's got a year left. I just watched him play, and it was comical to watch, a grown man against, boys in a local, game a couple of weeks ago. He's special.
Exactly. Well, Dave, thanks so much for coming on, and enjoy the. Make sure you have a late night meal. Make sure you take a nap during the daytime on Saturday. Get yourself ready to go.
Ooh, count on it. Well, the funny thing is, I'll confess, I have to do a game in a studio for the United Soccer League right before kickoff. So it's going to be straight through. I will be napping during that. You can count on.
That works. All right, sir. Thanks for coming on. And that's Dr. Dave there. Dave
LaMont. That's right.
Let's put the phone number.
Anytime. Adam, good talking to you, buddy. Guys.
Thanks, sir. It's good talking to Dave.
I feel like one of those, what's that info commercial? Call this number, if you need to talk.
There you go.
It's call now. Call now, get your second game free. Yep. All right, guys.
Yep. Take care. All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So anyway, let's bring John Mason, who he has a show going on tonight. Let's get him on here. Hey, John, thanks very much for coming on. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
David Monson, a good friend of ours, and he's doing that Miami stuff. And my brother's a huge Miami fan. I think he should call that number after the game is over. Yeah, make him feel better. But anyway, Liberty's going down to Wake Forest this weekend. It's going to be a tough matchup against a good Wake Forest squad because they have Sam Hartman back. So I guess it's going to be a difficult thing for Hugh Freeze and everybody to try to knock off another ACC squad. Because last year looked like Liberty should be playing in the ACC, not playing in the independent league.
Yeah, I mean, Liberty's had a good run the last couple of years under Hugh Freeze with Malik Willis at quarterback, and now everybody wants to know, was it Malik Willis or is it Hugh Freeze or was it a combination of both? And I guess we'll find out a lot this coming Saturday down in Winston-Salem with the number 18 or 19, depending on what poll you look at, Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who, like you mentioned, Sam Hartman's back, and after missing 1 week and maybe a couple weeks of practice, he didn't look like he was missing a beat, right? He threw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, I believe it was. And I don't know if you guys followed that game much when Wake Forest was playing Vanderbilt down there, but I mean, it was a lot of rain coming down as it was for a lot of the Southeast. But yeah, I mean, it'd be a big challenge for Liberty. I think Wake Forest is about a 16 and a half point favorite. But we'll find out a lot about this team on Saturday night.
Yeah, talk about they're going to Liberty played Wake Forest a couple of years before that, 2006 and 2012. I think the 2012 game was closer than everybody expected because Liberty had the lead going in the fourth quarter. So it's getting pretty interesting that they blew it, because Wake Forest won 20-17 down there on the 12th of September 1st. So I guess, if you're a Liberty fan, you still look at that game as like, okay, we could play against them, but Sam Hartman is that different type of quarterback.
Well, sure. I mean, a lot has changed for both teams, obviously, and, it's hard to believe 2012 was 10 years ago, but in 10 years, it's a lot has changed. And, it's, that game was Turner Gill's first game as Liberty's head coach back in 2012. And Liberty was, this first game of the year, they were kind of trying to figure things out, but they played really well. I mean, they led into the third quarter, I believe it was, before Wake Forest scored a couple touchdowns to go on top and held on for a 3-point win. But I mean, both teams would say, I mean, the coaching staffs are completely different. The players obviously are completely different. Both teams are a lot better, I believe. But, obviously, Liberty has moved from the FCS to the FBS since 2012 and had some success, knocked off some, ACC opponents, as you kind of alluded to, like Syracuse, Virginia Tech, won 3 straight bowl games, but at the same time, Wake Forest has been very good too. I mean, they've, won 11 games last year, made it to the ACC championship game where they lost to Pitt and then went on to the Gator Bowl and won that. And both teams 2-0 this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, and this offense, I'm really intrigued to see this offense. It looks like it's going to be some good weather down there in Winston-Salem. And I'm really intrigued to see Sam Hartman and a very potent Wake Forest offense in action. And, because they put up like 70 points last year against Army, I think it was. I watched a lot of that game because Liberty was playing Army later in the year. So, I mean, they were just scoring like every time you turned around. So, but we'll see. It's a big challenge for Liberty and the offense who's trying to figure out who they are right now early in the season.
Adam, you got something?
Yeah, I thought I'd let you guys know that there's actually someone on Liberty's football team who's from my hometown of Waynesville, North Carolina. And he went to my high school, Tuscola High School. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's a tight end, number 87. His name is Braden Monday. He's very happy to be up there in Lynch at Liberty playing under head coach Hugh Freeze. So when he made the commitment, we were all pretty happy here in the mountains. But tell us about this game against Wake Forest and give us some keys of how the Flames could find a way to knock off the Demon Deacons in Winston-Salem.
Sure, to be a big challenge. But yeah, Braden, he's a great guy and started off his career as a defensive end and then moved over to tight end. And he's actually been out the first 2 weeks with an injury. And I'm not sure when he'll be back, hopefully soon. But the Flames are hoping to get a lot out of him. They've got Liberty's got, I think, two seniors. Yeah, two 6-year seniors at tight end that kind of lead the way there. So Braden's kind of behind them. And next year, I think he'll get a lot of playing time. And he'll get some this year, too, as well, once he gets back to health. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big challenge, like I've already stated. I mean, Winston-Salem, Wake Forest is a very good team, and they're really good down in Winston-Salem, right? I mean, they've won 10 straight games there at Truist Field, I think is what they call it now. And their last game, I was looking that up earlier today, their last game they lost there was against the number one team in the country, Clemson, back in, I think it was the first game of the 2020 COVID-altered season, was the last time they lost at home. And I think there's something like 16-2 at home since like 2018 or something like that. So it's definitely going to be a big challenge for Liberty. I think the biggest key to answer your question is going to be the offense. Caden Salter, redshirt freshman quarterback, made his first start last week against UAB. It was a lot of rain for Liberty and UAB in that game as well too. So his stats don't look terribly impressive. I mean, they're average, I think you would say. I think he threw about 50% completion percentage and maybe 200 yards, and also, was high up there in rushing too. But, he struggled a little bit, and that was after, Charlie Brewer, who was the starting quarterback, the first game of the year at Southern Miss, he, broke his hand just below his thumb the second drive of the season, second drive of the game for the Flames. And he's going to be out for at least 6 weeks. And Jonathan Bennett's a backup quarterback, and he went in first and found a little bit of success, but then the team kind of stalled out, and Coach Freeze threw in Salter, who's, if you guys are familiar with him, I mean, he was a highly rated recruit out of high school, 4-star guy that originally committed and signed to Tennessee and had some legal issues there. And ended up getting dismissed from the program and entered the portal and ended up at Liberty where he redshirted last year. But he's very talented. I mean, if you watch this kid play, he's very talented. You can see the potential in him. Go back and watch that fourth quarter of Liberty and Southern Miss. And I mean, he was just very dynamic. But the key is going to be him being able to, one, not turn the ball over like he did against UAB. He did not have any turnovers. And two, to be able to, stay in the pocket, not be so quick to leave the pocket, try to escape and pick up a few yards, because obviously that Wake Forest defensive line, defensive front is going to be able to slow him down more times than not. I mean, it's not like he's, no offense to Texas high school football, some of the best high school football in the country, right? But when you're playing the ACC, an ACC opponent like Wake Forest, a top 20 ACC opponent, those defensive players are a lot faster than what you see in high school. So that's going to be the key. Can he stand in the pocket, make good passes, make good reads, and then also not turn the ball over? Because we know Wake Forest is going to score points, right? I mean, Liberty's going to have to score 30, 40 points to even make this a competitive contest. So that's the biggest key there for Liberty to try to keep it competitive and get the game to the fourth quarter and see what happens there.
Exactly. I was reading some stats today on the game notes. Liberty all time 0-7 on September 17th. That's weird.
Bad luck date, I guess. I don't know. I guess they have to have a bye on that date from now on going forward. I don't know.
Or Friday night or something. Yeah, forget about it. Yeah. But what does Coach Freeze bring to the program? Because it seems like he had a bad taste in his mouth down at Ole Miss, and all that stuff went down, and also he just showed up in Lynchburg, and it seems like whatever happened in Ole Miss is gone.
Sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing from Hugh Freeze being at Liberty is he went from being, he joined in 2019, just for the 2019 season, he was hired, and that was Liberty's first season as a full FBS member. He was taking over for Turner Gill, who retired due to some health concerns for his wife. But the biggest thing that I noticed that first year or two when he was there is just the change in the feel around the program. I mean, if, Coach Freeze comes in with an SEC background, having obviously coached at Ole Miss, like you mentioned, for several years. He was also an assistant there for a few years prior to becoming a head coach. So he has that experience. He has that background. He grew up watching SEC football, so he knows, the level of competition that level of play requires. And so He put in the type of staff that Liberty needs to compete. Not saying they're competing at the SEC level, they're obviously not, but to compete at a very high level, a high FBS level. He put in the resources are there. He brought that. He gives the team a lot of confidence. I mean, if you listen to any of the players talk each and every week, doesn't matter if they're playing UAB, Wake Forest, ODU, Arkansas, whoever, they believe they can win the game, and that comes from him and his staff. So he's brought a winning culture, winning tradition, and everybody has bought into it right behind him and followed along with him.
That's true. Well, John, thanks so much for coming on, and I hope you have a great show tonight, and enjoy the game this weekend against Wake Forest, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on, and it's been fun.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. See ya. All right, folks. That's John Mason, who covers Liberty. Well, we're going to wrap up the show here, Adam. Before we go, we'll do our picks to click here. We're going to pick Adam picks Appalachian State over Troy. No relation to Daniel Wilcox or anything.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's called. I think. You have ESPN game day going there, so it's like I'm assuming Lee Corso is going to put out a Mountaineer head. So I will say, my high school's nickname was the Mountaineers, so it's like I got to go with the Mountaineers.
Yeah, and I picked. I know this is a long shot, but I feel like Towson's due for a win over a big school, just to make it sound like Coach Ambrose, because Coach Ambrose needs another big win. I feel like he had big wins that trip to Frisco, and I think ever since then, I think he's been slacking a little bit. So I feel like this game might help him, improve the team, and they'll be 3-0, and they'll go into conference play next week against. I think they play next week in conference play against our good old friend from New Hampshire.
Yeah, that is true. They go.
Yeah,
I do believe so, Chris. They go and.
I might roll over there next week if I don't go to Michigan or anything I go to. Yeah, just trying to stay local. You never know. I might roll over there.
Sure. I mean, if you go up to New Hampshire, you can go get you some seafood.
Yeah, I could get a pass.
We'll get you some lobster.
Exactly. Down the road, if they go up there, we'll try, maybe you and I make a road trip up there one day.
Hey, I got a good friend of mine who lives not far from Durham. So I went to school with him, and I haven't seen him for a long time. So I got connections in Durham.
Nice. Well, we'll see you guys next Tuesday night. George will be joining us back next Tuesday. That's Adam. That's Chris. We will leave you with the Joe Flacco press conference on last Sunday when I think he threw his team under the bus. So take a listen to this real quick, and we'll see you all next Tuesday night at 7.
We would get right around midfield on a couple drives, and we should have had some energy going behind us, and we kind of just, let's go up to the ball, and then we just never turned the corner and got going off of some of those plays that we did have. We had some chunks. I feel like we had some chunks in the first half, but it was literally just one play, and that was it.